Awesome.
Alright. I have no idea how many people are watching yet, but as you probably know, this is going to be a concept art stream where Mikhail's going to be dabbling in some color progression for some concept art that we're working on at the moment. So recently well, not we, I didn't have anything to do with it, but Mikhail worked on something very similar, which I'm going to throw a link to in the chat. So if you want to have a look at something very similar to what Mikhail's going to be doing at the moment, just check out that link. So that was some color experimentation basically for a cold, rocky, mountainous sort of area in the game world, and now we're going to be doing kind of like a swampy. Is it like the more toxic one, or is this just more like normal swamp?
I was assuming that it's normal swamp, but we can make it toxic as well. I mean, we have at least 9 versions that we're going to make, so there might be a toxic one beneath them.
Alright, cool.
Between.
Yeah, I think we ended up for the other one, the mountain one. I think we ended up settling on 7.
7, 9, and I think a mixture between 4 and 6 was my. Like, I want to try 3 different variations and see how they turn out in game.
Yeah, I don't know. I find a lot of the ones that everyone is really liking are still very like orange. Hey, Alex. Still very orange and brown, and I don't know. Seems we like have a lot of comments from people saying like, "There's so much orange." I'm like, maybe we should like shift more towards a blue or a green or something like that.
Weird.
But I suppose.
Yeah, I haven't heard this complaint from people watching Mad Max, which is obviously quite orangey.
Yeah, I suppose it's more accentuated when you have a painted world, I guess, rather than actual footage.
This is true. I mean, if you watch a movie, you obviously have the sky and the ground, and this makes a nice contrast. You usually have like a bluish sky and orange desert, and we don't have this perspective, so yeah, all people see is orange-brown color tones.
Also, guys, you can throw out any questions you want, like to Mikhail about his work on the art of Dust Tile. You can ask any other questions that aren't related to art if you want, and I can answer them while everyone's just watching him work on this. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Alex says something about colors. Interesting.
Yeah, not that I'm in any way artistic. You can kind of see Mikhail just grabbing a bunch of different colors and like, I guess trying to feel out which ones work best together, like the contrast between them.
Yeah, exactly. The most interesting part is the transition from, obviously, like green does not equal green, right? I mean, if you look at the color space, we have so much different hues and values in green, and the most interesting thing are the nuances between the different shades of green, basically, that I try to figure out here.
I think a couple of other people just joined, so for anyone who just joined the chat, hello.
Hey there.
For anyone who's just joined, Mikhail's just basically messing around with colors, smudging them around, trying to find a good mixture of color for the scene that we're trying to create concept art of, which is a kind of swampy area. And I threw a link in before, which is an example of basically the same process but for a different type of environment. So that one's kind of like a rocky, cold, mountainy area. Well, now that you found chat, feel free to like ask questions or uh, give your opinion on various greens if you want
Yeah.
to.
Hot topic. Which green do you like the most?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We kind of had a discussion recently about whether we wanted to kind of work on adding in a lot more intricate uh, items into the game, basically for the desert area, and give it a lot more character. So, you know, instead of having like 10 different types of rocks, we have like 30. Instead of having like 3 different types of barrels, we have 10 instead, and basically give it a lot more variety in that, still in that very desert sort of kind of style, or whether we should branch off and start working on basically what Mikhail's doing now, like different biomes. So when people are walking from one side of the map to the other, they can actually move between different types of terrain, which I think the majority of people have said that they'd be more interested in. And I mean, we can always work on adding more assets later on, which we will obviously. Well, I guess that's kind of what we're trying to figure out. Whether we do, what type of swamp we want it to be, whether we want it to be kind of like very dark and dreary, or whether we want it to be, yeah, I guess a lot greener. I think we're definitely going for more green, but I think part of the discussion is whether we want it to be kind of toxic as well, because we were talking about having like a poisoned kind of swamp. But yeah, to continue on what Botwang was saying, yeah, exactly. I think people are going to appreciate being able to travel between very different types of landscapes when walking across the map, rather than staying in one type of landscape but having more variety in the assets that they see there. But as I said, like in time we'll work on that anyway. Like it's going to get more complex the more time we have to polish it. Now I'm very quickly going to mention on Twitter that the stream is live.
All right. Hey man. No, just greeting. I'm just saying hi to new people entering the channel.
A few answers here. Hey man, how you doing? Alright, again it looks like there's a thanks Alex. It looks like there's a couple of new people jumping in, so sorry if you guys get bored of me just reiterating it, but you could do another post to Facebook if you wanted to, Alex. Yeah, so for people just tuning in, Mikhail's just basically playing around with colors, trying to find out the base kind of mix of colors that we want to use for this new biome that we're working on, which is kind of a swampy one. Hey, it's Doc. Oh, thanks, man. That's awesome of you. And that just got boosted by Doc pretty significantly. Thanks, man. Yeah, Mikhail's just working on throwing colors together to see what color mixture we want to have in the new biome. He did basically the same process recently, if you want to check out that link, to figure out what colors we wanted for our rocky mountain sort of area.
I also have this image here in Photoshop, so whenever you talk about it, I can just quickly turn it on, so you don't have to post the link all the time.
I think people can go take a look at it and
Awesome.
like jump in between. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions you guys have about Mikhail's work process, stuff to do with art, you know, what it was like creating the art style for the game, what it's like working on assets for the game. And you can also ask questions that don't have anything to do with art if you want, and I will do my best to answer them. So yeah, obviously once we play around with this mixture of colors, then we kind of jump into the next phase, which is, as you can see now, Mikhail's kind of filling out a bunch of different boxes with different levels of all the different colors, and then we can take a look at that like we did with the other set and see which combination we like best, and then start working on shifting that into a game perspective, the way that you obviously view when you play the game, which is a more top-down.
Do you want me to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure, go for it, man.
Yeah, well, the reason why I start off painting thumbnails from an eye-level kind of perspective is that it's way quicker to produce results this way. The next step, as Dave has explained it, would be painting something from an in-game perspective, as you hopefully can see here. Like on the right side we have our current biome, on the left side I'm experimenting or just started experimenting from the, yeah, like what we have decided on and which kind of direction we want to go from an in-game kind of perspective. But the problem here is you have to apply an equal amount of detail, quality to every corner of the image in order to make it work. And this problem you don't have if you make thumbnails from an eye-level perspective. So yeah, this is the reason why I start out painting basically this thumbnails and not in-game perspective kind of images. If it made sense.
Yeah, no, it did. I actually hadn't seen what you were up to with those other ones either.
I know, they were secret until now.
I don't even get a sneak preview.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Alright, I didn't finish that Twitter update because I suck at multitasking, so...
For rendering, I'm not sure what you mean by rendering. I actually never used 3D programs yet, so I just paint in Photoshop. Thanks, man.
Talking about 3D modeling, I'm pretty sure we use Blender.
Yeah, but it's not part of my workflow. I'm just 2D in the 2D department. If you guys have any ideas what kind of assets could be in this swampy environment, like certain kind of trees or grass or whatever, just, you know, drop a line and I will try to incorporate this into the thumbnails.
And actually something that Mikhail mentioned to me before we started the stream that's really, I guess, both helpful and interesting is to kind of figure out what the storyline is behind the scene that's being created. So like what's happened to the landscape over the last like 50 or 100 years that's made it the way it is, why you know, why is there so much water? Why is it so dark? Why is it so humid? Things like that. What's creating the actual setup that you can see? So I don't know the English word for that either, unfortunately.
Trauerweiden. Oh, interesting. I heard this word, but I'm not sure what's the meaning behind it. So maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit.
I'm going to be a complete expert and Google Translate, because you'd be surprised how often I do that every day.
So do I.
Weeping, oh, weeping willows, right, those type of trees. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Oh, see, God, someone beat me to it in chat anyway. Yeah, they're like sort of very long, flowing sort of trees. Yeah, it's a cool idea. They do have a very, very interesting profile about them.
Right, I will look them up in a second and then see how I can incorporate them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I work completely as a what's the word? Is it monolingual? Is that when you can only speak
I think
one
so,
language? With a bunch of people who all speak like 2 or 3 languages, so everyone's constantly speaking English just for my sake. So I'm very special.
You have a special place in our hearts, Dave. Alright, I will switch to the next image. I don't try to stay too long with one image, because sometimes you lose, your eyes get basically, how it's called, not damp, but you know, tired from looking at one image, so it's good to switch between stuff. And I will look up the trees, just to see how they look like. Ah, yeah. Yeah. I have it in the back of my head. Whenever a situation occurs that it might be cool to incorporate this, I will do this. What I'm currently doing is I have a bunch of kind of reference pictures collected before the session started, just to have, you know, interesting assets or interesting color combinations that pops into your eye, you know, because making things from scratch is extremely time consuming and, you know, tiresome. So there are so many awesome photographies and ideas out there that we can try to pick up. And here, for instance, is an image that looks interesting. It has a very interesting contrast between like a very intense green, like a mellow green, and almost reddish kind of dead grass. So we will just pick this one up and see how it goes. And aside from this, it has a cool fog. You know, this could be like the fog of war, having this interesting color progressions. I don't even know what kind of names those colors have, like beige to muted brown, I guess. So I just pick up this sucker and put it into my thumbnails. And what I do next, I don't want to be distracted by the content of the image. I'm basically interested for the colors. So I have this brush, this smudgy brush, and I basically destroy all the distracting things and just have interesting progressions from one color into another. And this brush is adjusted that it basically produces color progressions. You know, like if you can see this, you have a gradient going from one color into the other one, like from brown into green, and I basically can pick every value out of this progression, which is extremely efficient and quick and produces good results. So yeah, this is kind of my process here. Yeah, this color is cool, rusty colors.
The kind of reddish color is one that I always thought would be really cool for like the toxic area instead of the kind of cliche green colors.
Yeah.
I think I had a couple of like ages ago I found a couple of like inspiration images, I guess, and threw in a folder. I'm pretty sure they're still sitting there.
Actually, you know what? Let's take this color and make it more present, you know. I will just expand the spot so I will be reminded that I want to use this color here and there. I actually slap it on the image just to have it somewhere lying around and use it, you know.
Probably shouldn't have my phone that close to the microphone. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really keen on the idea of the reddy orange in a swamp.
Okay, let's go for it. I maybe introduce a completely foreign color, like even a more dark kind of red tone, just to see if it gives me some kind of interesting ideas or progressions. Like this color could be interesting, going from orange to reddish, maybe some kind of bloody color. There are some pictures like of I think these are cloth factories from China or Russia, and they pump all their waste into nature, and it has such crazy colors, you know, like glowing orange colors, and it really looks interesting. So yeah, we might pick this idea up and use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the image that I was talking about that I had as like an inspiration was it was like a stream that had been destroyed by chemical waste from a factory or something like that.
Yeah. So I haven't been really thinking about the layout of the images, and I will try to do this now, like make a path or something through this toxic land.
People in chat should try and think of random ideas about what could have like intoxicated a swamp, basically. What process could have led it to have all these like weird colors? Because I mean, our most obvious one is that we're kind of thinking at the moment is that the city above, their waste is kind of like rolling down the walls and like falling in this swampland. You know, all their rubbish, whatever, and it's like infecting the swamp, I guess. But bacteria is a good one as well. Trying to think what other like crazy things, like maybe even something like really weird, like an animal graveyard that's kind of just like turned it into some disgusting. Crap is definitely a possibility as well. I don't know why crap would be turning it like a crazy orange and red.
Well,
yeah, infected corpses. That's basically what I thought. Like
yeah.
like some weird animal that uses it as like a, you know, like a burial ground. They all go there to die. Algae. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I have just a weird random idea. I mean, I don't know if people in chat are aware of the backstory of Dusthal, but we've been thinking about explaining why we have spells and all this magical stuff, and our explanation is that there is some kind of substance, I always tend to call it spice, that actually gives these people some kind of power. And I was just thinking maybe the spice has a life cycle. Maybe it turns from blue to orange. When it's blue, it's fresh and good and healthy, and if you know, use it improperly, it turns orange and makes you like a zombie. And you know, maybe like you have places in the valley where you have all this used up spice accumulating and poisoning the area.
That's actually really cool. I quite like that idea. Having like a life cycle, kind of like I mean, not that I'm a scientist, but you know how you can have like basically clean unused uranium and things like that, and then nuclear waste afterwards.
Yeah, yellow cake
I mean,
in between.
yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm not very happy with this one, so I'll just leave it there. I just want to have as much possibilities as possible.
I kind of like that one.
Uh,
I think like it incorporates in an orange in a way that I think is still not going to be like monotone when it's compared to the current oranges we have.
yeah, I have to reiterate this probably because I don't know where the stuff is really going. It's like I'm watching out for happy accidents to guide me, you know, guide my decision process. And you know, talking and drawing and thinking is probably distracting me as well a little bit. Ah, I like this yellow. I want to keep it. Nope.
That's pretty cool.
Hold on a second. I just have to check something.
I definitely like the idea of the spice kind of seeping into the swamp and like intoxicating it.
Yeah. The interesting question is then, where does the spice come from? You know, are there animals that produce it, or does it grow on trees, or what's happening with it? You know.
Well, I mean, my standpoint on that was always that it's basically in everything in the valley because it's just so completely full of it. Basically, like it's in the ground, it's in the water, it's in the plants. And the only real reason that people were able to withstand it for a while is because it takes a while to kind of build up. So it's everywhere. It's in everything. But I like your idea of the swamp kind of being a place where it's accumulated in an sort of off or used form, where it's no longer, I guess, can no longer be tolerated.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe the sand purifies it as well, like acting like a filter or something. Or if there are possibly devices that can, you know, accumulate the pure spice. Like we have been talking about ideas for the desert, that people, in order to get their drinking water, they set up this nets, you know how it's called, a net, that captures like little water drops. And maybe having something similar with the substance or spice, you know, some kind of machine that, you know, captures it.
And that's the only like source of it?
Maybe,
because
like
that brings into question for me, like how did people you know, become infected by it in the first place, if it's like a elaborate process that has to happen before they can get it.
I was assuming maybe it doesn't have to be elaborate that much. It's just to make it useful for warfare, it has to be industrialized, you know. But it's here and there, it might, the concentration of it might be high enough in order to influence people naturally. Like, you know, children get born by, and they're like a freak of nature, you know, having a lot of the spice in their system, enabling to do them magic tricks, maybe. You know, this is the reason why people actually discovered it, you know.
What are you painting, Kenpo, if you haven't already left? I want to know what he's painting. Kind of. Basically, I guess I may as well touch on the story a little bit more. Basically, everyone in the world of Dusthal was kind of spread out in the desert and in mountain steppes and that sort of thing, and the valley was discovered, and it was full of resources and a lot more, you know, means to survive than everyone had, like, out on the plains. And so everyone basically converged on the valley. A city eventually popped up. People were kind of going into the valley to work and extract the resources and bring them back up to the city. And over time, the workers that were going down into the valley started to become sick, which is them being infected by the substance that we're talking about, basically, the spice or whatever. And so obviously everyone started freaking out and stopped going down into the valley, but a lot of the workers were kind of left behind because they were too far gone and basically brain sick and going insane and turning into dangerous zombie creatures, which is what you see as now the NPCs, like the dangerous mobs.
Oh, they're so dangerous. Not.
Shut up. they're scary, alright? And then basically it swaps to a political leader of sorts in the city, taking the opportunity in the mayhem to seize control and kind of start a fear campaign in the middle of it, and yeah, basically takes control of the city. What are we talking about? The valley? Danger zone. Alright, and then basically the players, the reason they're in the valley is because they, for whatever reason, stood up to the leader and were kind of thrown in there as prisoners, and that's where you find yourself in the valley. All the workers who were infected are wandering around, and the reason that the players don't get infected is that some of the workers kind of figured out how they could manipulate the substance, and they're kind of shamans. Like, they figured out how it was affecting their body and figured out how to control it and actually use it as like a power, rather than it killing them or turning them insane. And that's where you come in. You find these like shaman people. They kind of teach you how to control the substance in your body, and that's why you're able to shoot like fireballs and run really quickly and things like that. Hey, Nikira. So that's like the very bare bones version of the story. There's more to that, and there's also obviously a lot more we want to build on it. But that's the very quick version.
Yeah, we are kind of having a struggle. We're not sure how much the story is going to, you know, be displayed in the game, how much relevance it will have. For us, or for me at least, it's very important to have a backstory, just to have a good feeling on the consistency of the game, you know, that things make sense for me in the end. But, you know, it's not a narrative-driven single-player game, it's an MMO, so people will make up their own stories, so, yeah.
Yeah. like I think my attitude towards the whole story thing is that um, it's never going to have like a really strong presence in the sense that you're going to have NPCs like guiding you around and it's going to be very story heavy. But I kind of want to at least offer up a lot of story to people as like an optional thing. I mean, even if we don't do anything that crazy to implement it, I'd like to just have tablets that can be read or something like that. Yeah, I agree that a good game needs a great story. It's just how we implement it in a way that um, I guess people who just want to log in and like I would compare it to a MOBA, like I mean there's a lot of lore that's floating around for Dota 2, for example. I went and looked it up because I'm really interested in storylines for the games I play. But a lot of that's like fan created, and I kind of wish Valve put more effort into at least having the lore there as an option that people could go and read even on a website. Um, so I do want to make sure we incorporate it in somehow.
I mean, I think one of the best and current examples how a good backstory benefits a product is, for me, Mad Max. The story or the narrative in the movie is quite linear. It's very simple, if you will, but every character has an enormous backstory. I've been reading upon the backstories of all the different characters from the movie, and they have a huge story, everyone. You could build a movie around every character, basically, and this is something you don't necessarily get. You don't get the information through the movie, but you feel that there is a consistency, and people have been thinking a lot about the backstory of each character, basically.
Hmm. I guess the issue there is like I understood what you meant. Um, the issue with that is we don't really have characters there at the moment to build backstories for. Like, I mean, we will have trainers and that sort of stuff. That's the plan at the moment anyway. So I imagine we can add backstories for that. But the only real option I see for having that backstory come into play in the game is if you walk up to them and say, look, and start a dialogue with them, and then they can then kind of reveal it to you.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to implement it, but we have the dictator, which is at least one character.
Mm. Yeah, Nikira, that's kind of I'd say that's like the base attitude we have. Like, we definitely want people to be focusing on their own experience, obviously. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it wouldn't hurt just to have like little stone tablets scattered around that have little bits of lore. Like, I think that sort of stuff, at least for people who are interested in it, is really cool.
Oh.
And people who don't give a crap about story can just not look for them, or if they see them, ignore them.
Well, I just read the point about the DayZ thing. Well, this is interesting. I mean, I just tried to figure out why it works without a backstory, and I assume part of it is because it's so close to reality. It's actually a scenario that could happen. Someone releases a biological weapon and turns half of mankind into zombies. Well, you have to do like 1-2 steps in your head to create a backstory for it. But I think once you have like a valley and magic involved, it's a little bit more, further away from reality, I guess.
People need a bit more grounding information.
This is just, I assume. I mean, I don't have any knowledge on this. I'm not a author or something like this. Okay, I actually kind of like this image here. We have this bridge, which is an interesting asset.
I actually need to just refresh the stream real quick. So
yeah, it's dead.
If anyone says anything like desperate in chat, I'm sorry, because I won't be able to see it for a moment.
Yeah. It's like color combinations I can live with, like going from this green, yellow, orange, brown thingy It kind of works for me. I'm happy with that. I leave it and I will tackle the next one.
Yeah, I quite like that one.
Yeah, well, I'm getting warmed up as well, so the first ones are extremely... I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I kind of like the orange fading into the trees as well.
Yeah.
It kind of almost looks like the trees through the water, like being sucked up to the roots, is like sucking up the orange from wherever it comes from.
Just thinking, maybe we will pick up this one. What else can we do? Color-wise.
That's back to mountains.
You see the one with the swan? No, you have a delay in the stream. Sorry, mate.
I do.
I'll just pick a random one.
I see the one you mean now with the bird.
Yeah, but I didn't pick that.
All right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I know, I can be very disappointing at times. Sky is crazy here. It's burning.
People in chat, you can also try and think of like other biomes that you think would be cool. Like we've obviously got the desert sort of one. We're playing around with this one that's kind of like a swampy area. We've got the one which Mikhail worked on, you know, over the last couple of weeks, which is like a cold mountain area.
The last week, basically. For anyone watching the stream, this is the previous thumbnail images that I generated for a cold, high mountain kind of area. Tundra, yes. Definitely.
I could dig tundra.
Yeah, if you have... You know what, Dave? Could you do a little bit of research for me? And
I guess. What do you want me to do?
Oh, I hope your internet doesn't break down then. Just pick, like, I don't know, give me a link or two to a couple of interesting tundra images with awesome colors or something like that.
Alright. We're meant to be making slaves of the people in chat and getting them going to look for images, but then I suppose they can't watch the stream.
How's it called? Like a think tank?
Yeah. Alright. Tundra came up with, like, not the images I would have expected. It's all like grasslands.
Well, I assume tundra is a grassland, question mark?
I don't know, I thought of it more as like icy, like, yeah, open.
Depends on the season, I guess. I don't know, I don't live there, I live in Germany, this is not tundra, not yet.
Yeah, like a sort of volcanic area, that's really cool as well. We kind of talked about having in the mountainous area like a lot of sort of yellow in the cracks of the rocks and stuff, with a lot of like sulfur fumes and things like that to make it kind of a really intense contrast of like deep yellow and blue. A darker forest is kind of what we were going for with the bottom section of the current map. I don't know whether you've already played the game, but at the bottom middle of the current map, there's a very mazy sort of forest area, and we added a wind chime in there that has like quite a creepy sound to it. And what we basically lack to make it more creepy and dark is basically just the assets. Like we need probably a darker texture to give it a darker floor and darken up the trees and stuff. But yeah, like I dig having a creepy forest. I think that'd be a really cool area as well. And you know, we could decrease line of sight so that the fog of war is more prominent. That sort of stuff.
Are we actually allowed to advertise our Kickstarter campaign?
On Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for everyone in the chat, we need more artists to create all these ideas, because I alone can't do this. I know it's way too much work. And for everyone who is interested in seeing our game being created and having more assets, please go to our Kickstarter site and, you know, check the project out, and if you like it, please donate money, because then we can hire artists and create more stuff and make it look more awesome.
And that way Mikhail doesn't have to
Yeah, I hate doing in-game
do everything by himself.
I hate it. I just want to paint concept art.
What was I doing? That's right, Tundra.
Tundra, yeah. And we had this
So easily distracted.
the tree still. I wanted to put in the tree.
That's what I think of when I think of Tundra.
Oh yeah, but it's very close to what we have done, like in the first iteration, you know.
Yeah, kind of. It needs more color though somewhere. Like we can't just have like gray and white, or like light brown and white. It needs. All right, there we go. I'm asking chat again for something. What's another color that can be added into Tundra so it's not so plain?
Oh yeah. I've got Sebi sent me stuff. Holy shit. So much stuff. Just check one out. Oh man, this kills my eyes. So much.
Actually, I think we've been going for like 50 minutes. I think maybe what we should do now is move on to the next step in sort of the process that, because I mean, we don't want people hanging around for too long. We probably want to show them another step soon.
Yeah, okay, alright. I will just finish this one off. You know, I can't leave it like this, and show a little bit of the second process, but I have to warn you, it's a very tedious and time-consuming process.
That's right. I just figured it'd be good to show people, yeah, I guess a bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, I haven't prepared everything. Only prepared the second step, sorry.
That's alright. Come on, man, we want to implement a brand new entire map. We want a brand new game world.
Yeah, the game would have been finished by now if it were that easy.
That's true. Then viewers are jumping up and down a little bit, so I'm not sure if there's new people here, but in case anyone does have no idea what's going on, Mikhail's just doing some concept thumbnails, taking some images and basically taking various colors from the scene and messing with them, seeing what colors go well together before we move it into a concept image of what it would look like in game. I have to admit, for some reason, like when we did the mountain area, the orange and brown like kind of annoyed me, and I was immediately like, no, that looks far too similar to the desert area. But for some reason, in a swampy sort of zone, it doesn't look as similar. I think it might be like the large amount of green.
Yeah,
sets it off well.
Definitely, it's a matter of contrast here and many other things. I mean, it's partially not the same orange as we use in the desert area, and there is a thing called the oh man, my English. Complementary contrast, which makes colors appear different if they have a different, you know, if they're combined with a different color, basically.
That is a good idea, actually. When we create an asset for the respawn point, like the oasis sort of thing in the swamp area, we could make it a weeping willow instead of the normal little gnarly one we have at the moment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's so much potential, there's so many things that we want to do and could do. It's, in the end, all a matter of, you know, budget, as usual.
What does that say? Does that say dad?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not fast enough. You code faster, Sebi.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Well, this has an interesting twist to it. So, when we hit the 1 hour mark, I will go into the next stage. Is this okay, Dave?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I quite like the idea of the long, thin, winding paths through swampland. I'm pretty sure Alex would dig that as well.
Yeah.
When I was doing the recent world map, he was constantly telling me to do thin, winding pathways. I wasn't very good at it though.
Thin, whiny pathways?
Winding, you know, like...
Yeah, I know. I was making a joke.
No, not whiny pathways.
Like Alex whining that we don't have enough pathways.
He's gonna watch this.
I know. He can punch me in the face if he doesn't like what I'm saying.
Hey, Jivski. I can't say your name properly, I'm sorry.
What? Excuse me?
I'm just talking to chat.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, as Mikhail said, in, you know, like a bit under 10 minutes, like after he's worked on this last concept a little bit more, we're going to see the next step. And I don't even remember off the top of my head what we had planned for what you do after this. Actually, that's a good idea. While you're finishing it off, why don't you explain what you're actually going to do? You're going to grab one of these images and then magic, and then it's going to become something else.
Yeah, well, we won't be able to get something in-game today. This is unrealistic. Yeah, the next step will be I will pick one of these images and the color combinations, and I will probably pick this orange-green one here in the right bottom corner, and I will try to make an in-game, well, not mock-up, but a painting from an in-game kind of perspective. It usually takes way more time than painting these thumbnails, but along the way I hopefully will be able to explain a little bit about the process and, you know, things that are important while making this in-game kind of paintings.
Yeah, I quite like that one as well. Is that the wall in the background?
Yeah.
Nice.
I always want to paint the wall just to give it scale, just to remind you that you're still in the valley, you know.
Yeah. Super Bee Dog. I have no idea what that is. It sounds awesome though. For some reason, like, I get the feeling it's like a pug in a bee suit or something. I don't know, that's just what my instincts tell me. Which one did you say you think you're probably going to go with?
I assume this one, this green, orange, brown thingy. You don't see it. Yeah, for everyone seeing it, this one, the right bottom corner, I will pick this up and try to do something in-game. I don't have enough information yet. Usually this process takes, you know, way more time as usual. I don't have enough information, not a very super good feeling on what I want to have asset-wise in this environment. But just to give you a hint of the process, you know, it will be all very loosely painted.
Oh my god, I was right. It's a pug in a bee suit.
Yeah.
I use the internet too much.
So.
People should post what their favorite one is so far. A couple of you may not have seen them all, so maybe.
Well, yeah, I show them, and whatever you like, pick one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like 1, 2, 3. How many is there now? 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the 4 I won't count because it sucks. I do not like it.
Okay.
Like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, if you see this, pick one, let us know, post it in the chat, and then we continue onwards. Two to 4, okay.
Oh, you're actually numbering them. How helpful of you. And I'm pretty sure someone's having a shower or something, so sorry if you can hear that.
Just pick up your cam and, you know, show us.
It's upstairs. It'll be quite a journey.
A journey upstairs, Jesus.
What an exciting stream that would make.
Yeah, that will up the numbers instantly.
What Paterino said. There's a few games that do that sort of thing. Like, I mean, The Witcher 2, I haven't played 3 yet because I'm a pleb. But, you know, certain signs doing more damage in the rain and that sort of stuff. Like, abilities that actually use your environment to be more or less effective. I think is a really cool idea. And I can't say for sure. It might be something that we experiment with later on. But I don't think it'll be for quite a while. I mean, the technology is a bit of a complex word for it, but Sebi, a little while ago, actually in Unity made it so the game would detect what sort of surface you were walking on, and that would tell your character whether to be visible or not. Which is why we have a different texture under the grass, so that when you walk on that texture, it makes your character invisible. And that's the same sort of stuff I think we could employ for what you're talking about, so that you know, when a fireball lands on a certain type of texture, it does different damage or has a different animation or that sort of stuff. So it's possible.
Okay, we have hit the 1 hour mark, and I seem that most of the people are interested in image number 3. Alright, so we will pick up number 3. Yeah. Well, yeah, don't expect any masterpieces, it's just a presentation of the workflow. Actually,
come on, man.
What?
We have to sell it at the end of the stream.
I'm an artist. I'm self-destructive from, you know, this is my nature, so...
You're an artist. It's in your nature to sell yourself.
No, it's in the nature of a businessman to sell his stuff.
I'm going to look at this bee dog, because Jivsky seems very...
Maybe we should stream this fucking bee dog and, you know, let people see what we're talking about.
It looks like it's Guild Wars, so I don't know if we'd be able to do that.
Alright.
It's like a vanity pet. All right, that's pretty cool.
All right.
Why are you streaming under Guild Wars 2?
I don't understand this. What does this mean? Streaming under Guild Wars?
Because I'm watching the B-Dog and it's in Guild Wars 2.
Ah, okay. I see. Okay, what I'm doing now is I basically have my, if you will, reference image on the left side, you know, the thumbnails I've created, and I will pick the colors from there and try to make an in-game perspective. And this is basically the second part of our work process, because I don't think that we will get further than that. Afterwards we will have to create textures, assets and all the stuff, put it in game, rearrange, and this is basically a whole nother topic. This will be interesting for another streaming session, I assume, if this one is successful.
Yeah, I'll actually mention that. For those of you who might be here from Doc's stream, I'm not sure if he's still hosting anymore, but if you are here, he's going to be playing with us this Sunday at what's the time? I'm going to double check the time. But if you jump on his stream during the week and check out what he's doing with the keys that I gave him, because I gave him a bunch of keys for Dastal, and if you're there when he does his giveaway, then you might get a key and be able to join us on Sunday for the playtest.
Yeah.
But yeah, Doc's awesome. We've had him along a couple of times. I really like playing with him. Yeah, that's actually another interesting topic. For like a really long time, we advertised ourselves as a like PvP sandbox MMORPG. Like those words are just like ingrained in my brain. But the more we interacted with people, the more I guess people started telling us that they kind of perceived Dastal as a different kind of game, and MMOBA is what we came up with.
Really? I thought like open world
I think
battle
it was
arena.
Doc who came up with it, actually. I'm pretty sure it was Doc who came up with it, or at least it was on his stream. We just finished our first test with him, and I went to check out his stream afterwards and just sort of have a chat with him. And a bunch of his players were just like brainstorming what the best name for like the genre would be.
There will be a time where every game will have its own genre.
Paterino, I actually turned up to the clan test last weekend and stayed for about 15 minutes and answered some emails and then went to sleep because it was about 4 AM for me. And I'd been helping a friend of mine move rocks all day, and I was really tired. So I kind of piked out and skipped it.
Once again, I like to hint to our Kickstarter campaign. We need money so Dave doesn't have to transport rocks anymore in order to pay his bills.
Yeah, I didn't get paid.
Even worse. You're the worst businessman ever.
I really am. But I'm gonna make sure there's a couple of questions floating around, so I just want to make sure. It's not a 5v5 map at all. That's actually where it leans more on the MMO side. you know, clans of whatever size you want, however many people that you want in your group. It's an open world with groups of, you know, up to 30, 40, 50 people roaming around, whatever. And then you'll have like solo players and that sort of stuff. It's not the structured 5 versus 5 thing that you see in a MOBA at all. Where the MOBA comes in is mainly the combat system and the fact that we want to focus on kind of team-oriented gameplay. We want teamwork to be quite important, and the combat itself is inspired mainly by Bloodline champions. And obviously, as you can see, like Mikhail's making up a kind of game perspective image at the moment. It's top-down, as it is with most MOBAs, well, all MOBAs. Oh, well, except for Smite and that sort of stuff. That's true. The creators of the game, there's 5 of us who are part of the core team, so it's probably easier if I link to something.
Oh yeah.
But no, there's 5 of us who are in the core team. Mikhail's the artist. I do community communications, that sort of work. Sebi is the coder. Alex is the game designer, and Marcus is what did you say Marcus's job title was?
Well, he was
system
UI programming.
Yeah, Marcus does a lot of stuff. He's basically like Sebi's go-to man for just extra work, and he does a lot of UI work and that sort of stuff. He's on the tech side of stuff as well.
Basically, he's Sebi's bitch.
But yes, there's 5 of us who are part of the core team, and then we have a various amount of other people. I would say like 5 or 6 freelancers who we get on for specific tasks, such as music, UI, that sort of stuff. We get 3D modeling. That's another one. We get people in when we have a specific amount of. Marcus told you he made some effects.
Yeah, true. He made a couple of particle effects. We also have a VFX artist who made Flow, by the way. Hi Flow, if you're there. He made most of the awesome, actually all of the awesome spell effects and all the stuff you see whenever you hit someone with your X or stuff.
I know what Marcus is talking about as well. The effects that he was probably talking about was the clouds and
environmental.
Yeah, basically environmental effects like shadows and things like that. So there's a lot of cloud shadows, bird shadows that are flying overhead and that sort of stuff. Marcus created all of those.
Yeah. We also do have a freelance coder who is responsible for a lot of the shaders that are in game, especially like if you look at the buildings and you see all these clothes moving in the wind. His name is Manuel. I really enjoy working with him. Yeah, he programmed this kind of things and fixed a lot of bugs that, yeah, made the game more polished. Well, I can talk a little bit about the process here. The thing is, what's really important is whenever you have a game that has a top-down perspective, you are limited with your artistic tools, because actually we as humans are not used to see things from like 20 meters above like a bird. Our optics are not made for this, and so we have to find, you know, ways to make things readable. Yeah, because you don't have depth. Every object is basically has the same distance to your eye. And what we did in the original game is to make outlines to the objects so they separate from the background, and it gives you a sense of height and you can differentiate between them. This is like one thing. The other thing is I tried to make the characters separate from the background in that way that I made the characters darker than the background itself, and you can see this when I you know, I turn off the color. You basically have this rope kind of guy and he's comparatively darker than the background, and this is a concept I wanted to I'm thinking of applying to the other biomes as well. As you can see, like one of the rocky biomes, I tend to go more into the bright kind of, you know, values, because basically the character separates way better from the background. Same with this image, you know, color doesn't play a huge role in this kind of separation, but value does. For the swampy area, I'm not sure. I mean, we are going for maybe a very dark kind of swampy zone, and for this reason probably the background has to be way darker than the character to guarantee the separation. So yeah, this is something we try to explore as well. As you probably can see, like right now the background is quite bright, and I apply like a, I don't know what it's called, dodge or burn tool, and like I make a couple of strokes and make the background darker, and suddenly the character pops out more to the eye, you know. And maybe I will keep it this way, you know. I will just save this and keep it and try to work with the darker values and see how it goes from there. But I like the look, you know. There's enough separation going on for me. Techno babble.
No, it's good. It's good that you actually give some technical context every now and then, because I certainly can't.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how much the people are interested, because it can, I don't know how interesting it is, you know.
I think it's quite interesting. I mean, when you originally started showing me how you did a lot of your work, I found it really interesting.
I mean, I'm a person.
And as Alex said earlier, I haven't watched you paint in ages.
Well, personally, I like to understand the why, you know. I'm not satisfied with, okay, it works for some reason, but I don't know why. And currently, I really want to know why things work, and actually, it has a lot to do with our way of perception, how we as humans perceive the world. And, you know, like being animals with 2 legs and jumping around on the ground level actually shaped our optics enormously. I mean, if you compare our eyes to the eyes of an eagle, we are not made for looking at things from a bird's eye view, right? And this is the reason why the thumbnails work so well, because our brain interprets information that is not there. But if you have an in-game perspective, you have to make sure that every information, every single bit of pixels is polished for the brain to understand it, because you don't have any depth. Our eyes are accustomed to depth, which you don't have here, right?
Or at least very minimal amount of.
Yeah.
From a diagonal perspective.
Exactly. Is the stream okay, or is it buffering for
Yeah.
you? Okay.
No, I'm not buffering at all, so I would say that it should be fine for everyone.
Awesome. Great.
What do you mean by tools?
Maybe he means my brushes and things.
He may do.
Well, actually, it doesn't matter what kind of, yeah, well, it does matter what kind of brush you use. You have to understand what kind of effect each brush has, or which technique. You know, you don't only paint with brushes. You have smudging, you have dodging, burning, You can work with masks, and every one of these tools has a certain visual effect, and it really depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a aquarellic look or an oil painted look, you might use smudgy tools more often than like hard shapes and photo textures, right? But to be honest, I'm still developing my tools. You know, for the Dastal, it took probably a year to get most of the techniques right that made the visuals of the games look like I wanted them to look. So yeah, basically a 1 year's process. But as a painter, as an artist, you're constantly developing, and you never stop exploring new tools, new brushes, new techniques, and so on and so forth. I hope this answers your question. I see. Not specifically for the style, to be honest. Some of the tools I used for the style I also use in different projects and my own paintings because they just work damn well. And in the end, to be honest, a huge selection of brushes and tools doesn't matter, because you probably will end up using, I don't know, 2-3 brushes in the end anyway, whatever you feel comfortable with, you know. And this is the problem with Photoshop in general. I think some people, when you begin working with Photoshop, you have such an abundance of tools to work with. It's just, it can be overwhelming, and you have to find what works for you, and this is a long process. And sometimes the program controls you, you know. Sometimes you don't know what to use, and you don't have a feeling for the tools yet, and this is basically limiting yourself to what works best for you is quite a challenging thing in the end.
I don't want to smash away on my keyboard again. Mystic, if you're talking about whether people are going to be able to just, you know, spend money on early access and get access to the same sort of thing and be in the game at the same time as you are when you spent, you know, however much money on a tier on the Kickstarter, that's not going to be the case. Like, we're going to match it up in a way that makes sense, that we're not taking away value from the packs on Kickstarter. Like, someone's not going to be able to just spend $30 and walk in on the server when you spend $100. That's all going to, yeah, line up properly. We're not going to take any value away from people who spent money on the tiers. And that's essentially exactly what I meant by not being able to say for sure when we're going to let people in, because we have to make sure those line up. Yeah, no, if you backed it at a certain level because you wanted those perks that it offered, don't worry, like, we're definitely not going to make it so you spend money like that for nothing. Yeah, understandably, man. You know, like, and anytime we make any decisions like that, for example, What was the most recent one? When I'm not sure when you backed, but before we added the new tier, the Sentinel, where people could back €15 and get access to the alpha testing weekends, we sent out a bunch of emails to everyone who'd already backed on Kickstarter and said, "What do you think about this? Are you going to be like annoyed? Is this going to make you feel like, we're like kind of ripping you off by not letting you have that option earlier on?" And basically everyone who replied, I think actually everyone who replied said, "No, you should definitely do it. Add in a lower tier. It's going to get you guys a bit more of a money injection. We're still, happy with the tier that we backed." So we went ahead with the idea. We definitely take feedback on those sort of things, because in the end we need to figure out a way to make money off the game that people are going to be happy with, so that more people will spend money in the game. We do want to make money off the game, but we don't want a bunch of players who are feeling like they're not really getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
Because that's not a way to grow in the end, and we need to grow like a lot. So
yeah, we don't want to move stones for free anymore.
No, I don't. But I'm probably going to do it this weekend.
Oh no.
Dude, he's got a lot of rocks.
Afterwards, you will hate the rocky high mountain area because you will be traumatized.
Exactly. That's why you need to make it all blue and weird, so it doesn't look anything like the rocks that I've been moving.
I see your agenda, right. Now I will ask the dude what kind of colors his fucking rocks have and make it exactly the same.
No.
And we will include a physics engine into this game, so you can move rocks in order to gain experience.
Yeah, a really really good accurate physics engine, so I can actually feel the pain in my back while I'm dragging them out.
That will be so awesome. Yeah, CB seems to be looking forward to this as well.
What's Sebi looking forward to?
I don't know, probably programming the physics engine, I hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's looking good.
I've suggested the idea of having like a ragdoll model once you die, that you don't have like this stiff animation falling on the floor, but actually being hit by something and, I don't know, spinning around. And don't know how it will work out, it's just an idea. Come on, Sebi. You still owe me, by the way. I painted an image for you, and you have to do this.
I don't really know how. I mean, obviously, I don't really know how difficult physics engines are. I imagine they're quite complicated. I can see a lot of people in our game world being flung off into like the trees and getting stuck there.
Yeah. Okay, another problem that you encounter while painting from an in-game perspective is like value in terms of geometry, because everyone can imagine like a cube that is lit from one side. You basically see always three sides at once. One side will be the brightest, the second one will be less bright, and one side will be the dark one. So this is basically like the basic rule set for geometry. And whenever I paint and use two strong values, I create geometry, which I maybe don't want. In this case, I have like a little hill here, which it looks like a hill because I have this shadow falling here, and it indicates to the eye, or it communicates basically the illusion of geometry. And sometimes I want that, and sometimes I do not want that. For the in-game, we are not really sure how much geometry we want to have, because it causes technical problems. So maybe I will keep it flat, maybe I will leave this hill. This is something I will have to think about in the future as well. Sebi's complaining?
No, I'm just reading back in the chat. I missed Paterino saying he was hyped, but I'm confused about what he's hyped about. But that's all right. Um, um, I don't think we'll have people who die falling into like the water and things like that. Mainly because then they wouldn't be like accessible, and we do have like a gank and res mechanic,
Well,
so
they can
then
drop
someone
their
wouldn't.
loot before they fall into the water.
Yeah, but then they can't be reached to like
No, I mean
gank
drop the
and
loot on an accessible area.
yeah, but then they still can't be ganked or res. Like you need. I'm not
Ah,
talking about
true.
loot. Loot is
Then they
important.
will then they will float on top of the water, close to the.
When someone has to like throw them a lifesaver thing.
Now, yeah. Well, I think it's. I would love to have such things, kicking people into the swamp, water stuff. That will be awesome, but I think it's technically way too difficult for
Yeah,
us now. We always have like we have to live by the motto. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is right. Like KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
keep it simple. Yeah. What Paterino said actually reminded me of something though. When we were talking about the swamp areas, which randomly just like popped into my head the other day, and that was making like the water very shallow and making like the water actually the kind of ground that you're walking on, and making the land the negative space in the map that you can't walk on.
Oh,
So having like a really shallow like water texture, and you're walking along and splashing, and maybe there's like sediment and that's why there's footsteps, like we currently have in the desert.
oh
Um,
man, you have to stop talking. This gives me so many ideas I want to see translated into the game.
I want to give you ideas. It's the same as whenever I get carried away talking about the weather system, and everyone tells me to shut up because it's too difficult. And I'm like,
Except
no,
for
I
me,
want
except
rain.
for me, I want it to have a weather system too. So.
Yeah.
But your idea is cool. I mean, this would be really interesting. This could give us way more possibilities in terms of the vegetation of the swamp areas, because we don't have to think a lot about colliders and all these things. But
Mm.
I'm not sure how it works, like the interaction with the water. I mean, I know there are like simple tools. You have this JavaScript that was really popular in the 90s, where you dragged your mouse through the screen and it looked like water, Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, or maybe there are pre-built systems like that we can implement. Maybe Sebi can say something about this, but
Well, I mean, it's
yeah.
it's the same thing as I was talking to you about like last night or the night before, whenever it was, when we were talking about a weather system. I imagine it's just a matter of like visual effects of like a splash or a ripple or something like that, and then the audio to accompany it. Um, that's what I kind of want to see as a rain system. It doesn't have to be elaborate where you can actually see the raindrops falling past the screen like you have in a lot of games. You just need those like little white sort of splashes on the ground, along with the audio. I think would still give a lot of really good atmosphere.
Could be. I mean, I personally not sure if this will work out, but I mean, we will have to try it whenever we get the chance. But it's irrelevant in terms of game mechanics. So I think the game lives off the mechanics first, and then we can, include this kind of things.
Atmosphere and that sort of stuff afterwards. Yes, that's true.
Exactly.
Also, to Mystic, the current Fog of War is actually kind of based around a sandstorm or like swirling sand. That's why we didn't go with like the traditional just like dark shadow behind you, or as Fog of War. We went with like a kind of yellow Fog of War that's actually like fading over the top of each other, so that it kind of imitates like swirling sand a little bit. But I get what you mean, that a sandstorm of actual like a weather pattern where it makes it harder to see and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Sebi says that weather with audio and rain is doable.
Seems to be
All right.
doing. Yep. Well, you know, you
All
can
right.
quote in him now.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If anyone, next time I suggested, if anyone says anything, I'm gonna like pull out my screen cap and be like, Sebi said it's doable.
Yeah.
So we're
But
gonna
is
do
it
that.
feasible? You know.
I think it's everythingable. It's agreeable. It's
It's
we should definitely
necessarable.
do. That's not a word, but it's definitely that as well.
Yeah, you see, it is a word because you understood what I meant. I'm an artist. I'm paid to create new things, so might as well be words.
And I'm communications guy, and I tell you, you have to communicate better than that. Um,
My communication was superb.
all right, we're getting a little bit off track here. I'm sorry, chat people. Um, yes, I know Sebi. Yeah, see now Sebi's like putting in disclaimers like
Oh yeah, typical Sebi.
I like that little bridge thing. That's a cool idea. Makes me think of like you know I don't know, I can imagine like the swamp areas being like where a lot of hemp is located, you know, because I mean it technically doesn't even have to be hemp. We could just make the plant-based resource or whatever in the swamp area
Yeah,
like flax or something like that, something that grows by a river. I'm pretty sure flax grows by a river anyway. Um, and then have you know like almost flax huts, like those really low huts with like little wharfs coming out of them and like canoes hanging off them and stuff like that, that like really I guess what sort of setting would that be, like houses by the swamp,
yeah, man.
like I guess like Southeast Asia and that sort of stuff, where they have
Yeah,
like a lot of the cabins by the side of the river and that sort
I
of
think
stuff.
so. Yeah, I've read like Vietnam has this kind of things you're talking about, this kind of assets.
Mm.
Yeah, so we have tons of ideas. Once again, sorry for advertising, but we need money to make it all real.
I'll throw it. Yeah, I don't know. There could be like a few people here from wherever
Yeah,
that actually haven't seen any information on the game before ever.
yeah,
As long as I can get the link right. That is our Kickstarter, and you don't have to go there and like throw money at us, but there is actually a really good collection of information about the game in general. If you scroll down, it tells you all about our design goals, the combat system, basically everything about the game that you could want to know. But also, obviously, feel free to ask whatever you want in chat. That is why I am here. Mikhail paints, I just mumble away to myself.
mumble, mumble, mumble. It actually turns out quite atmospheric, I have to say. I'm a little bit surprised myself.
What's the brown thing sticking out of the water in the bottom left?
These are brown things sticking up. Oh. I don't know, maybe like some residues from a building, or
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
could be
Yeah,
also natural, you know, like how's it called? Tree parts. Damn it, my English.
yeah. That's what made me ask. It kind of looks like planks, like it used to be like a something where someone tied up a canoe or something,
Yeah, maybe.
or like a thing to hold up nets.
Could be also. I mean, it. The good thing is it makes it everything more alive. Whatever it turns out to be in the end, you know, it looks like someone has been there and has been doing things.
Yeah, to answer that question, it's very likely that sorry, I'm just reading all of that.
Yeah.
Just kind of spaced out for a second. Yeah, we typically have new accounts when we have like public playtests, because if we use the old ones, then we'd have a bunch of people who had played before, all leveled up, and then we'd have like lower level characters, which is not really what we're about. So you asked Alex, all right? Well, you know already. Yeah, people tend to start from scratch at each new test for now. Obviously, that will change like as we take bigger steps into having longer server times. You know, when we originally started out, we only had 1-hour tests. Then we kind of jumped to four-hour tests. We have the occasional 24-hour test, and then obviously we'll keep moving up to like a week, 2 weeks, that sort of stuff, so people can actually log in consecutive days and keep building up, and it'll become more of, you know, more of the MMO will get injected into the MOBA feeling.
Interesting phrase. Gets injected, you know.
I love the word injected.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Mystic. Basically, until we work all the way up to 24/7. But obviously, then it's still worth mentioning that we are eventually going to have a maximum server lifetime period, the time boxing feature, which means that Dusthal's servers actually die. They do come to an end. Will mean that there will be a maximum lifetime. I like this one. Do you want to keep working on this until the end of the stream? When do you want to end the stream? Because I don't really care.
Well, we set for 2 hours, right? And I think we will...
That was the idea.
Yeah. I mean, we can... I don't know how... Well, sorry. I'm not sure how it is with you, but I could do streams more often if people are interested to, you know, join us. We could do this more often, definitely.
All right. See you, Sebi. Yeah, the time boxing feature is arguably the most important one for people to understand if they're going to play Dusthal. But I think people who have actually played the game are way more ready to accept it, because when people hear about right, sorry, chat's distracting me constantly. When people hear about like an MMO world coming to an end, they think of, you know, their traditional MMOs like WoW and that sort of stuff. And they think about, you know, spending 2 or 3 months like they do in WoW, building up, grinding mobs, doing quest chains, you know, going around hitting resource nodes and that sort of stuff. And they think, why would I want my character to go back to level 1 and lose all of that stuff? Like, I spent all of that time going through all that stuff. Why would I want to do it again? Whereas if you play Dusthal, that's not what you do. You run around, you get involved in PvP fights, you know, you go into the towns and craft new items, and do that sort of stuff, like you do in a MOBA. You go out, have a fight, you know, go back to the fountain or whatever you want to call it, buy new items, go out, have some more fights. It's a lot more active and honestly a lot less time consuming. You're not constantly basically bored. I mean, I don't want to rip on like other MMOs, like everyone likes their own sort of thing, but what we're trying to step away from is that feeling that you're going out and basically doing boring stuff when you could just be PvPing the entire time, or, you know, exploring the entire time, whatever it is you like doing in a sandbox environment.
That's interesting. I would like to comment on that. First off, thanks for everyone who's interested to have another session. We will see how and when we will do this. But aside from this, I wanted to comment on the MMO thing. I'm not an MMO player. I haven't played MMOs. I'm probably the only one from the team who is a virgin on this field, basically. But I've found that even I'm not the biggest fan of PvP, but while playing Dusthal, it's you are not cramped up with being afraid losing all your stuff, you know. When I was playing, I was called Mortal Online, you know, I constantly got bashed, and it was such a frustration to go grind myself through heaps of zombies to get better equipment again. And this is something I don't have with Dastal. I can get out, I can join a clan, and I can be a valuable, you know, asset to their strategy, basically.
To Mystic, who was just, I'm wondering how big it's gonna actually let me post in chat, how much text, but this is what I previously typed up like a little while ago when I was coming up with how to categorize the game, when people were telling us they kind of didn't want us to be using terms like sandbox MMORPG and stuff like that. So we kind of stepped back and had a look at what we really wanted the game to be, what we were aiming for, and what was the best way to describe it. And that is what we came up with. Actually, that's what, like I said earlier, Doc's stream kind of gave us the idea for Open World Battle Arena. Yeah.
Oba.
Alba. Kind of like the sound of Alba.
Alba. That could be the name of the spice. Alba.
Hey Cody. How you doing, man?
We need more Alba.
Yeah, man, we invented our own genre. We're cool like that.
Yeah.
Someone has to do it. I mean,
right.
You know, when Dota and then Dota 2 and League of Legends popped up, that was a new genre being created. And at the time, I'm sure it sounded strange, but now, you know, MOBAs are a big thing.
You know what, for the last 20 minutes or so, I will try to do the other environment that turned out to be nice enough to be used. Because this one, I mean, it's quite clear where it's going, you know, it looks alright. By the way, just to pick up on where I left artistically, since we don't have like the same depth level as we have in the thumbnails, it's good to have like these outlines. Once I added the outlines to the trees, it's way easier to distinguish them from the background, you know. And unfortunately I haven't made this its own layer, so you could see it like when I turn it off they blend more into the background than when I turn it on, but it gives the whole image way more structure. So yeah, this was a good reason or a good argument to implement it into our game. Outlines.
And I'm assuming, yeah, I'm pretty sure Doc's getting ready for his stream, which is why the viewer count went down, because I'm pretty sure it's probably coming up midday his time. Which is when he normally kicks off.
What was
it's quarter.
Okay. What was the
quarter to
12
count his time.
At the max?
I think about 50. Or
wow.
We went up to like 58 or something like that.
Awesome.
Now that Doc's host is gone, for anyone who hasn't checked out his channel, I'm going to add a link to it because he's a really cool dude and he plays Dastal with us. He's actually the one that initiated the test that's going to happen this Sunday if you're coming along. And he plays a bunch of other games, mainly MMOs. But I checked out his stream the other day and he was playing Warframe, he plays ArcheAge, a bunch of other stuff. So if you are interested in a streamer who does that sort of stuff, you should definitely check him out. But yeah, I kind of jump in his chat like whenever I'm like eating or something like that. I normally like throw on a YouTube video, but the last couple of weeks I've just been going to his stream and just like talking crap in his channel with his viewers. It's good.
find it fascinating that people don't watch TV anymore while eating, they watch YouTube.
Oh, dude, I don't even own a TV.
I mean, neither. But I mean, this, you know, this image is so, it's so cliche that is in your head, you know, like, ah, I have my dinner ready or my pizza, I will turn on the TV and watch some, I don't know, Simpsons. And
Yeah.
now it's like, I'm gonna watch my favorite YouTube streamer.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, as someone who plays a heap of games, I mean, the international's coming up, the Dota 2 tournament, and at the moment there's a bunch of qualifier matches. So I've been watching a lot of those when I've just been eating and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, well, you're into Dota so much, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Dude, some of my friends find it so weird. Like I watch the international and the qualifiers and stuff like other people watch football. But I'm sure like some of the people in chat probably do as well. It's not it doesn't probably doesn't sound that abnormal to you guys, but to a bunch of people who are like electricians and that sort of stuff and don't really play games other than maybe a bit of PlayStation. They walk in and I'm watching like a competitive match of Dota 2 with like commentators and
Don't bash the electricians, dude.
I have nothing against electricians.
No.
Like 6 of my friends are electricians,
Oh.
funnily enough.
Yeah, well, of course it makes sense. I mean, why even compare? I mean, is it less value to watch esports than to watch other sports? And I don't want to say real sports.
I don't think so, but I think it's just it's not really a readily accepted thing yet.
Yeah.
Um,
For me, it's not different than chess. You know, I mean, it's also a brain sport, but you have more like reaction time things incorporated into Dota.
to what Patarino asked, the like once Mikhail gets this all sort of done to the stage where the other one was at that we linked you to, you'll be able to see it wherever it is that you know check out our stuff on Facebook, on the forums. We'll send it out just like we did the other one, so you'll definitely get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
I'm just checking the chat backlog while I was jabbering away.
Jabber, jabber, jabber.
Yeah, I read an article. That's not true, actually. I completely made that up. My housemate read an article and then told me about it.
You liar.
I know I'm such a bad person. About they're actually going to be allowing betting on esports now. So, you know, in Australia, that's TAB. I don't know what sort of organizations handle it in other countries, but, you know, the same places that accept bets on like horse races and boxing and that sort of stuff. Some of them are now going to be allowing betting on esport matches.
This idea is so old. I mean, I had this idea while I was playing Counter-Strike, you know, the old one, the really first one. I was thinking, like, what if you can, like, put bets on a clan versus clan match? You know, you could generate heaps of money. And now finally they're doing it, like, after, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Yeah, well, I mean, my housemate found it really weird. Like, that's why she was talking about it. She was really surprised. But, I don't know. For me, like, the Dota 2 trading scene, like, where you can already bet on Dota 2 matches
Yeah.
with items from Dota 2. And a lot of people just do that and then sell the items for money. So there's already essentially people doing it. And I guess those... I don't even know what you would call them. Gambling, betting
Yeah.
agencies or whatever are just doing the logical thing and getting a piece of it.
Of course. Of course. There's obviously some kind of potential for money making.
Yeah, I was literally about to say it needs some of that like lighter orange. Hey, it's Yovane.
Hey, man.
And yeah, I imagine it would be like knowing that people have bet a bunch of stuff on your clan. But I think like once you're playing at the level of like the international, there's a fair bit of pressure there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the prize up to now? I gotta double check somehow. Um, I don't know how to check other without opening it. I don't really want to open Dota while I'm sitting here. But I mean, I'm sure it's probably up to like 8 million or something by now. I think last year's international ended up being about $12 million prize
Wow.
for first place.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean it's already up to, I think it's 7 or 8, but don't quote me on that. And it's not until August or September. Again, I could be wrong, but they've still got months left of people buying stuff until the prize money's settled.
Wow. I mean, just as a reference, I've been following the Mr. Olympia stuff, you know, like not the Olympics, but where Arnold competed. And
Yep, I know the one.
yeah, their prize money is, I don't know, maybe 800,000 or something like this. And this thing has been around for, you know, since the 50s or 60s. And
Yeah, but there's no like horde of millions of gamers paying money
yeah,
towards the prize.
well, it's a niche, you know.
Yeah, that's basically it, Paterino. We've talked about it. Like I think we even reached out to a couple of smaller esport communities and talked about inviting teams through them to see if they wanted to come have like some smaller PvP matches. And we might get into it later on. Like the only problem is like with our game servers being like yeah, exactly what you said, Mystic. Like if we wanted to do something like that, then we would have to have a specialized game server that was actually kind of based around combat, short time combat, I guess, because you can't really have an esports match that lasts for like a month and people log out and log back in like every day. It doesn't really work like that. It kind of needs to be fast paced, short enough. But it'll almost be like an arena version. Almost kind of like what we have at the moment, actually. But I mean, that's the sort of stuff we'll ask players as we go along. Like we definitely have our idea of the time boxed long life servers as the main servers, but if we get like a heap of people saying like, hey, back during the alpha tests we had a lot of fun just kind of fighting each other 10 versus 10 or 20 versus 20 for 3 or 4 hours, that was awesome, you should bring back a game mode like that. If we have enough people asking for that, I don't really see why we shouldn't do that. The stream's going to end up being 2 hours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yobane is definitely something we'll investigate. But as Paterino says, we kind of need to make sure we've got enough active people doing it. But maybe investigating it now when we're kind of starting off will actually be a good way to grow, showing people that there's like some really good competition there.
Yeah. Would be funny if this aspect of our game turns out to be way more successful than the whole game itself.
Honestly, it would be kind of hilarious, and I think Alex would be a little bit devastated.
Yeah,
but
I think so too.
I mean, if the current state of the game was in like really high demand, and we just kept like polishing it up, and people found this high enjoyment in a smaller version of the game than we originally planned for, then I mean, are we really going to argue with that?
No, well, I wouldn't, but I think for him it's his baby, it's his dream, you know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it has to stop here. I mean, the Dastal could be one step to his vision. You know, you have to be open-minded all the time and see potential. You know, sometimes things turn up totally different than you expected them to be, so you better be prepared that this happens, you know, and react upon it. I mean, I constantly have to deal with this. You know, my image often takes another turn that I wanted it to, and sometimes I just try to have no expectations at all and see what happens, and being this open-minded helps the most. And you know, you're not frustrated because it doesn't look like you intended it to. Maybe it looks better in the end, you know, who knows.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you do have to be open-minded and I guess be able to accept that it might not go the way you wanted it to,
Yeah.
or planned.
So is life, you know. I know it all. Kids, listen to me.
Wise Mikhail will sit down and paint for you and give you life advice.
Yeah.
Right, I realized I did a horrible job at going and finding Tundra images for you. I got one and then just gave up.
Yeah, man. It's typical. I mean, it's what I always expect from you.
Typical? What the hell, man?
Lousy job.
As if I'm reliable. Yeah, I think we are actually going to finish up like exactly when Doc starts.
Awesome. This is a perfect transition. So
Oh, no, he had to stop hosting like quite a while ago.
yeah.
He does like quite a long intro in the lead up to his stream. He like kind of chats with his viewers and stuff
Right.
before he kicks off.
Can you elaborate on who he is? Because I didn't really know who Doc was.
All right, I'll just check what Paterino's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I think the feedback we get from people who actually play the game is really positive, and I think most of the trouble that we are running into, not that we're really, you know, running into a heap of trouble, is that it's really hard to communicate to people what we're trying to do and what the game is like if you get in and play it. So a lot of people are kind of hesitant when they read about it on big sites like MMORPG and Massively and stuff like that. There's a lot of people in the comments who are like, a top-down MMO? No thanks. Like it's you know, it's not 1992 anymore. Whereas, you know, everyone who's played the game, at least who's talked to me, is quite surprised and really enjoys it.
Yeah, sometimes you have to experience certain things. This is what I had to learn when I came into the games industry, that some games you don't understand if you only look at screenshots or even at videos. You know, it's not the same experience as actually trying it for a couple of hours. And I think the more distinguished game genres get, the more specialized they get, the more it is necessary actually to play it in order to understand why the game is the way it is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't so busy, obviously working on our game and moving rocks, I would have loved to check out Albion already, but I'll probably wait until then, further along, and it's a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
But I like what they're doing as well. I mean, a lot of people see that as the quickest comparison to Dastal, actually, Albion Online. And I can kind of see why.
It isn't, is it?
Not really, no.
Crowfall would be the closest one, I was assuming.
It's like design-wise, yeah, Crowfall off the top of my head is the closest, I guess game like spiritually to us and like design-wise. Albion, I guess I can see being played on the same sort of level. Like I can see that they're kind of trying to make an enjoyable yeah, I know, like the top down is kind of similar as well. I don't know.
Yeah, rip 90s, exactly. The 90s are my favorite era, right after the 80s.
Yeah, we actually I forget what we were talking about recently when we were making some sort of post, and that's what it was. It was the Reddit AMA, and we were saying we should make the title. I'm a game developer creating a game, creating the WoW killer, basically. Like we're going to create a game that kills WoW, and just then like watch the hate storm just rage on the thread.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Smoo. Actually, I'm not super happy with it. It looks a little bit boring, but yeah, this is not design language. This is just color composition still.
I think you need to work on the roots a little bit more. Make those roots like more defined.
Dude,
but that's just me.
Don't tell me what I have to do. I'm not telling you how to communicate. Oh, by the way, it's 6 p.m. here, so I have to pack stuff because I'm driving to Munich tomorrow. So I would say we can stop the stream now.
All right, no worries.
Any last words?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
1.
Thank you,
2.
everyone, obviously, for coming along. No, that's not enough. 20 seconds. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. I hope you enjoyed watching Mikhail doing his thing. We'll probably do things similar / exactly the same to this in the future, so keep an eye out on your email addresses, on Facebook, on the forums, that sort of stuff, and come along and check it out. I'll drop a link to Kickstarter just one more time, even though I'm pretty sure everyone who's here is
Yes, I will be at the game camp too, so hit me up if you are there. I don't know how you look like, so
and that is all I will do. So Mikhail's going to be cutting himself because he's a cruel overlord and he's in control of the stream, not me.
Come on, man.
So I'll talk to you all again soon.
All right. I also, from my side, thank you very much for joining the stream. Thank you for your compliments and your collaboration. So, yeah, it's you, Flo. All right. Yeah, thank you very much once again, and have a nice evening. See you at the next stream, whenever this will be.